Afternoon, Scott. Good to
Hey,
see
mate.
you.
Good to see you.
Just start off with some team news out of Forest. Any injury concerns?
No injury concerns leading into the game. A couple of players edging closer to coming back as well. So we'll make a call on that probably tomorrow to see exactly where we are. But in terms of fresh injuries, we're good.
Just gauging the atmosphere of the squad, how are they, especially after the two last games where they've suffered kind of last-minute defeats after such promising performances?
Positive, really. And I say that really lightly because obviously it's been a bit of a sucker blow for us over the last couple of weeks, where I felt we put in two really good performances against some very, very strong opposition in the two teams we've played, and we've not managed to get a result in the dying minutes of games. So of course there's an element where we're hugely disappointed how things could have been a little bit different for us. But I think overall at this early stages of where we are, I think there's real positives to be had from them games really. We took both teams in different circumstances coming back from the way we did at Old Trafford, and then for majority of the game against a world-class side like Liverpool, shutting the door on them and obviously not managed to get the result. So a lot of positives, and I sense that around the group as well, and rightly so, to be honest with you. We've been very competitive and done everything what was asked really, other than getting the points.
Talk about shutting the door against Liverpool. Of course, every game is very different. I just wonder, when you go to Nottingham Forest, face Nottingham Forest this weekend, the other side of the pitch, how do you feel so far, generally this season, the attacking side of the team has been, and where do you see those improvements as well?
Well, I've been really, really pleased with that. That definitely, look, this time last year, in obviously the Championship, it was an area of our game which we was a little bit short on. And I thought we all recognised that really, and it was certainly an element where we needed to improve. And towards the back end of that season, or halfway through it, we definitely improved. Levels gone up this year, and I've took great confidence from how we have looked as an attacking outfit in terms of that. So every game's different, Dan, and you prepare for every game different, and we're going to need to be really flexible this year in terms of how we go about it. Hopefully on the attacking front that continues, and we still look like the threat we've been over the last 4 games, really.
Just final one from you, Scott. I imagine Nottingham Forest preparing for them is slightly different to what you might have thought a few weeks ago when Nuno was still there. Just your thoughts on Ange Postecoglou generally, having won a trophy at Spurs, losing his job, and now back into management at a very different club. What have you made of kind of his last 12 months?
Well, look, I think it's been well documented. Ange's, where he's gone, has been hugely successful at previous clubs, really. And he did that again last year. So up against a huge competitor and someone who's been in and around it for a long, long time. Obviously, the planning for us is, I wouldn't say not ideal, but you're obviously planning for a totally different setup, maybe, and a different outlook on the game, and we'll be aware of that for sure. But yeah, it'll be a tough game as always, and certainly with Ange being there as well, whether it was Ange or Nuno. It's the Premier League, and we'll have to come with our best game, really. Cheers.
Hi, Scott. Just picking up on what you said about some of the positives you can take from the last 2 performances. Obviously, there'll be a great deal of disappointment, frustration, the way that the 2 matches have finished. How can you use that energy in the Forest game and moving forward as a real positive for the club? Well,
I think the main mantra that we've always took, and we took that last year for the majority of the season, was each game as it comes, and we reflect, we debrief. A lot of positives, like I said, playing against the fixtures we've been presented with early on in this season have been some tough fixtures, and a team coming up into this division that can be quite daunting at times. I've seen a massive improvement from the first game of the season at Spurs, where I felt early part of that we looked a little bit dazed, a little bit wasn't sure, and I've seen a gradual improvement from there to Man U, and then another massive improvement to Liverpool, really. So yeah, look, every little nugget of every bit where there's been success or there's been positivity around the group, we need to emphasise and we need to hold on to, and that's going to be our season this year. Of course, there's disappointment, and the disappointment is that we've not managed to come out with 2 extra points in them last 2 weeks. But football moves quick, we move quick. We've now got a game against Forest where probably another game for us to try and bring our best game and try and get a result, really.
I know obviously yourself, you've got huge experience in the Premier League. There's elements of your group who've got a huge experience at this level as well. But for the group as a whole and some of the younger members of that, the newer members, how much of a steep learning curve is it to just understand how cutthroat this league is when you've had the experience you've had in these first few matches?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's probably been the main wording from me over the course of pre-season and even now, and it will be leading on for the rest of the season. The harsh reality of this division, the focus, the control, the concentration you need in this division is beyond anything any other division offers and wants, really. You lose focus for a second here, you get punished. And hence why there was massive positives from the Liverpool game. I felt the team had real control about it, a real understanding of what was needed, a high level, a world-class level of focus and the detail of what they needed to play at. And probably you're walking off that pitch as a player more mentally fatigued than you are physically at times because of the level of concentration you have to. And yeah, we did that, and we did that very well, really. So yeah, there's some harsh learning curves, and like you said, this is a squad that has some experience in it, but also a very young squad that probably is the first time they're experiencing certain things in the Premier League. And of course, there's some harsh lessons, and we've probably faced 2 of them in the last 2 weeks, really. We'll learn from that, and we'll become better for that. Is
your job more mental with inexperienced players at this level when you've got, you've shown in the games that the preparation is there, that the tactics are there clearly, they're working, but it is those small details which can be the hardest bit to get right consistently?
Yeah, I think that's probably fundamentally a large part of my job. Certainly when you're dealing with younger players, there's probably a more broader aspect with younger players that you need to try and give them a whole understanding of every scenario, really. A player that's been in the division, a player that's experienced certain things, you'll probably offer that because they understand certain dynamics in certain moments, what the game demands, what this game's going to need to be at this present moment in time, in the 13th minute, whatever it may be. Whereas younger players, probably it's all new to them. And there's a lot more elements. There's a tactical, there's a technical element. And then a massive part of that is the psychological element and that mental mindset, the focus, the understanding of things. So that is my job, really, to try and speed these players up as quick as we can, really. That's what we try and do.
Do you enjoy that part of it?
I love that part of it. Yeah, I love that part of it. I suppose I can speak from experience, for sure. I can speak from experience of understanding it. So I think I have a real understanding of certain things what's demanded on a professional athlete in certain arenas at certain times, really. And it's that what I enjoy in terms of trying to give all that knowledge and even seeing it happening at real time, having a real understanding and knowing in my head what probably needs to be said, how I need to deliver things, how I need to train certain things. I do really enjoy that.
Thank you.
Cheers, mate.
Hey, Scott.
Happy.
We talked a bit about, just following on from that, being in dad mode last season, the sort of age profile of a lot of your players, the level of experience, perhaps the ones that are new to this country. How much dad mode is there being engaged at the moment? I know after the game, particularly the Liverpool one we've been talking about, you said, I've been through this before, I've seen it and done it, but perhaps they haven't, and I have to look after them a bit. Is look after them the right phrase?
To a certain extent, you need to look after, but at a certain extent, you don't want to constantly be let down. You need people to quickly understand, quickly learn, and then take on the approach, which obviously they don't fall into the same traps and the same habits or the same mistakes. So, of course, I'll always protect, and I'll always be that shield, and certainly that mentor and that coach that's going to help the team, certain individuals at certain moments, what they need. Likewise, on the flip side, we need to help ourselves as well, and that's how you grow, that's how you become better and establish yourself in this division, really.
Football, I've been doing this a long time, football tends to go in phases. We tend to have things that are talked about a lot and then they go away, and things that are in vogue and they go away. We've had a lot of ethos and style of play stuff, and it's being discussed a lot in the Premier League with certain clubs. Is there anything wrong with being pragmatic and looking at a situation and going, this is the best thing to do in this game?
Well, I think that depends how you see it. And fundamentally as a coach, I have a group of men, I have a team, and my main anchor back to is how do I get a result? How do we get a result? And what you have at your disposal will determine that, really. So yeah, I think the majority of the time you always fall back on how do we get a result here today against Liverpool, and the way we set up or the way we go about things may be very different to how we may approach another game, and you've seen that in a real small sample this year. That I think over the 4 or 5 games we've played, I think you've seen a team in different moments take different approaches, which fundamentally fall back onto how do we get a result. So yeah, we'll continue that. Pragmatic at times, if that's what you need to be, that's what you need to be. I go back to it to get a result, and that's what we're trying to do.
Is that flexibility the key thing? The fact that it is very likely to be different against Forest, for example? Definitely.
I think for sure we're going to have to be flexible this year, and we've worked a lot in pre-season. And like I said, I think you've probably seen us over the course of this start of this season, where I think we've been pretty flexible in terms of our shape and our structure, and we're going to have to be that this year for sure.
Is that something that takes time with players as well? That sort of automatic, you slot into that position when this happens, that kind of thing. Does repetition build that? Yeah,
work does that. There's no shortcuts. Come down to me as a coach and the players in terms of how much information they can take on that gets you to that journey a lot quicker, of course. I wish there was a magic wand like we all do, and every man that sits in this position wishes there was a magic wand you could just flash. But new squad, with the complexness of it in terms of the different ways and the different styles, can cause more work than sometimes. We went through this last year. Last year was exactly the same, okay, albeit in a different division, but we were pretty flexible in certain moments. We built on a bedrock and a foundation, and we manoeuvred around certain things that for certain games give us better options to win it or get a result, really.
Just as far as your team selection is concerned, obviously you've done things tactically, you've done things personnel-wise, you mentioned a few injuries there. Losing Postecoglou to a suspension, is that opportunity knocking for somebody else? I know Luis came off the bench and made his debut in that game.
Definitely, yeah. Look, we've got a squad here which we need, and throughout this year, injuries or suspensions, one being with Leslie this weekend, gives someone else an opportunity to come and fill that position. So yeah, we're going to need the squad for all different scenarios this weekend. Someone will take that place due to Leslie's suspension, really. So, but yeah, that's all good.
As far as the game's concerned, it's fairly obvious that you've not got a lot of material to work with in terms of Ange Postecoglou and Forest, and that will present some difficulties, I'm sure. Might it be a better bit of time in terms of the stuff we've just been talking about, in terms of getting settled and learning what's required and all of those things, because he's only had 2 games to work with the players?
Of course, yeah. I think that's fair to say, and that's not being critical. There's a different coach that goes into a football club, brings different ideas, different philosophy, different way of playing. And Ange will be no different in terms of walking into Forest and wanting to change certain things. So what I do know is that they have a strong squad with strong individuals, and for all of new manager coming in, new manager not coming in, what I do know is that we're going to need to prepare for this game like we have done over the course of this early part of the season, and be the team that we've shown that we can be. If we can be that, we'll cause Forest some problems. We need to make sure that we're our optimum, fully focus, and have a real understanding of what we need to bring to this game, really.
And just lastly, how impressed have you been by Turf Moor and the way it sounded? I was lucky enough to be there for the first game, and then I was at home listening on the radio with the pictures on the TV, and it was very noticeable, the atmosphere generated. How important is it that you can maintain that?
It's going to be absolutely vital. It's going to be fundamental for us this year. For this group, for myself, us as coaches, and us as an organisation, really. We understand the challenges this year, and we've said this from the outset. We made us as a group here, as a tight-knit group, we understand them challenges and we know what's going to be needed. We're going to need to bring quality, but for sure we're going to need to bring a togetherness, a cohesion, a commitment, that nothing buckles us, really. And the fans are vitally important to that. The weekend's game was a prime example. That Sunderland was a prime example. And I think the fans are on our page as well. They understand the dynamics. They're going to understand, and they do understand that there's a group of men that run out here every week, and I can guarantee you from the first game of the season to the last, it's an honest group that will try and give everything they can for this shirt. And I think our supporters can always forgive certain things, but I also think they appreciate and respect and will be right behind this group, really, which we're going to need for the large part this year.
Cheers, all the best.
Cheers, mate.
Hi, Scott. How's Jakob Brun-Larsen been this week?
He's been all right. Yeah, he's been back training, so hopefully we'll be available for the weekend. He came back training today. Again, another training session tomorrow. Hopefully, if he comes through tomorrow, he'll be in a good place to maybe be involved in the squad.
After the game on Sunday, I didn't get a chance to ask you about Josh Laurent playing in a back three. Was that a game-specific role? Was that something that he could maybe repeat in future? Because he did well, didn't he?
Yeah, he did do well. It was certainly probably something more due to the opposition we was playing and how they set up, that I felt that was probably the best way to go. In saying that, he done brilliant, Josh, and certainly it's a position that it adds to his bow in terms of being able to fulfil for us if need be, really.
Seeing that Hannes Delclair not named in the squad, what's his situation now? What does he do to keep sort of ticking over until January? Because obviously he didn't get moved during the summer.
Yeah, it's tough for Hannes, obviously, with the squad. There wasn't an option really for Hannes to go out and find regular football, which obviously he wants and probably he deserves, really. So that window's shut now. So we'll make a plan accordingly to obviously keep Hannes in good shape, and we'll obviously come up with a plan regarding that.